Hi, everybody. I am Dr. Marianne Pinkston, and this is The Better Life with Dr. Pinkston. And today I am going to bring you a fantastic show. I cannot wait for you to talk to this. I call her a young lady. She's young to me, but she is an incredible entrepreneur, has done so much already, and she has achieved her name is Renee Fitton, by the way, and she works as Director of Education and Healthcare Sales at L-Nutra, which is, we've discussed the Prolon Fasting Mimicking Diet on the show before, and she is working directly with that company, but she is into nutrition. She's a registered dietitian. She got her master's under the esteemed Walter Longo, PhD at USC. She is really a great entrepreneur and has worked very, very hard. She also founded, and we didn't talk about this, Renee, but you also founded an app called Healy, or you were part of the co-founders, and that is something people can download and a great nutritional AI program, CDC, I think CDC based or approved. So let me hold you back no more. Renee Fitton, good morning and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to sink our teeth into hopefully some new topics that people haven't heard before. I think people get a little bored with the world of nutrition or overwhelmed. It's usually one or the other. And I'm really hoping that we can unpack a lot of that today.
Absolutely. And I'm grateful for that because you're right. Overwhelming is absolutely right. And we talked a little bit kind of before the show about which of our audience, we want to target this morning. We've just got too much information and too many people, but we will hit the highlights on everything. So do me a favor, explain fasting mimicking, the fasting mimicking diet, some of the science beneath it, and again, why you chose to take this line.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let me just first start by saying that as a registered dietitian and somebody who has spent, the vast majority of my career in longevity nutrition specifically, I've always looked for solutions that we can implement to our lifestyle that help people not just live longer, but live healthier longer, something that we call health span. And in any one of those ventures, it's always really important that I find things that have a lot of science, a lot of evidence behind it, because it's really easy, especially these days, to hear something that is, sounds incredible, but doesn't really have the evidence behind it to really give it the support that it needs and to let us really understand and believe in it, Yes. And it's one thing to believe in it. It's one thing to know that the evidence is there. So that's really what has drawn me so much to the fasting mimicking diet, which is really what we're going to spend a lot of time on today. The fasting mimicking diet has over 30 years of research that has been backing it up. There's now over 40 clinical trials, there's now over 30 different research institutions. We're talking the Yales, Harvards, Mayo clinics, USCs of the world, some of the best minds coming together to bring this to life. So that's really what initially piqued my curiosity here. But what kept me around was starting to see the impact, right? So what it is, let's back up first and talk about what the heck is the fasting mimicking diet.
Absolutely.
Fasting mimicking diet is the ability to get all of the incredible benefits of water-only fasting, and especially long-term water-only fasting. So fasts that are over about 3 days long, because once we get into longer fasts, we get a lot more benefits. But of course, that seems difficult. It might seem dangerous. There's a lot of concerns when we think about doing these longer water-only fasts. Yeah. And so that's what the fasting mimicking diet does. It allows us to get all of those benefits, but with food. We're allowed to eat breakfast, lunch, dinners, snacks, all day, every day for a period of about 5 days is the average length of a fasting mimicking diet. But your body is behaving and believing like it is in a fasted state. So it's doing all of this internal cleanup and work that it would be doing in a water-only fast.
Yes.
But it's far more comfortable, far safer. And we'll go into some of those great benefits that we see beyond that.
Absolutely. Now, you hit on something very important, though, cleanup and fixing. So what is that? And why is cleanup and fixing, good for living longer and anti-aging?
Yeah, and let me clarify that this cleanup is very unique to fasts. The
Yeah,
cleanup that I'm talking about, there's a lot of talk about detoxes out there, and unfortunately, people don't really define what that really means.
absolutely.
When I talk about a cleanup, I am talking about a deep cellular cleanup at the level of our cells. Our body's made up of pretty much entirely of cells, right? And they decide and determine what is going on throughout our whole body.
Mhm.
And so it's really critical that at a cellular level, that's where we're getting this cleanup.
Yeah.
But to turn on this deep cellular cleanup, it's pretty hard, actually, especially at a significant level. And that deep cellular cleanup is something that we call autophagy. It's just a really, honestly, overly complicated word to describe cellular cleanup, cellular rejuvenation. I like to think of it like a vacuum cleaner for our cells or an internal doctor for our cells. And that is what is being triggered by a long-term fast. And let me clarify, long-term, you have to fast for at least 2+ days to start really triggering this deep cellular cleanup. And that's why most people really aren't getting this deep cellular cleanup every day because, understandably, we're enjoying our meals, we're eating, relatively periodically, and we're very seldomly fasting for 2 or more days.
Right.
So that's why occasionally we want to sneak these in.
Right. And so in doing that, in cleaning up the cellular functions, I mean, this could be into anti-cancer, lowering heart disease risk. I mean, we're talking about everything that people are in fear of. And I try to hammer over and over and over, these disease processes start in your 20s, folks, your teens and 20s. They're not starting when you're, 40 or 50. So doing this and going way back will help you in your future. And I think is a nice key. Besides, exercise is a very nice key, to longevity and anti-aging. But in cleaning up and all, is it like a reset button? Is it something that allows our bodies to kind of pick up and get jump started again and feel better? I mean, people have lowered energy. They have all sorts of problems. We talked about beforehand, menopausal women, problems with hormones, all that. And I know this is a big question. I apologize, but it is, how does this really help people in their everyday lives? Why would you choose to do something like this?
Oh man, it is a loaded question because as I mentioned, there's over now 40+ published clinical trials, right? And so the breadth of what can be done is pretty immense. And that is what happens when we work at a cellular level, which is essentially working from the most root cause approach that you possibly can. We are going way at the top of this funnel here. And that leads to a large number of downstream benefits. But let me just list off a handful that are generally the most exciting for people. One, biological age. Just recently, in 2024, there was a study published in Nature, one of the top journals, showing that the fasting mimicking diet, just done once a month, that's 5 days a month for 3 months in a row, showed a 2.5-year biological age reversal.
There you go.
So that's pretty incredible. And aging is actually the number one risk factor for chronic disease, all the ones that you were mentioning earlier, and something that we really, you don't necessarily have control over your ability to age, or at least the number on your birth certificate, but you certainly have the ability to change your biological age, which is the age that your cells and your body are actually acting. So this ability to shift that number drastically lower with a fasting mimicking diet, and truly like in an unheard of high number with such a 15 total days of intervention, is huge. And that should be beneficial to anybody, no matter healthy or not. That's really powerful.
Yes, absolutely. So knocking our age backwards. Yes, continue. I interrupt.
You know what? I feel like, I'm just going to list a handful of things, and anything that you feel like we should dive into more, let's do that, because we could be here for days. But
we could.
Yeah, things to be mindful of that have a big impact with fasting mimicking are going to be metabolic health. So I'm talking insulin resistance, blood sugar regulation, even blood pressure, cholesterol, pretty much anything that your doctor's checking on a regular basis, right? So your metabolic health is a big one. We also see a really big impact even on skin health. So because our skin is of course made up of cells, just even 5 days of the fasting mimicking diet has been shown to improve skin texture, skin hydration, fine lines even. So that's really cool. We look at things even like energy, mental clarity, those are all seeing improvements. We see behavioral changes, so increased likelihood of making other lifestyle changes. If you let me get into that's the one study that I'm thinking of immediately on the change in exercise habits after a fasting mimicking diet, it's incredible.
Nice.
So I mean, I'm sure I'm missing so many, but of course that deep cellular cleanup allows for so much impact. And you did kind of hint at oncology and cancer care. And actually that is what prompted the creation of the fasting mimicking diet. Dr. Walter Longo, the founder and creator of the fasting mimicking diet, was looking for a way to get the benefits of water only fasting in this population that he knew he was seeing all this incredible benefit of fasting, but no doctors were going to do it because they were scared to put these patients at risk. And so that's really where it started. And there's now in fasting mimicking about dozens of articles now published, both preclinical and clinical in oncology. And that's just oncology. Now think about all the other conditions that have since been studied. There's a lot.
There is a lot. And I did set you up for that, but you answered it beautifully. I mean, a broad base of how nutrition can change your longevity and your disease, progression or development. So nutrition. Now, this is your focus, and I mentioned in the beginning, I'm not sure you really want to go there at the moment, but I mentioned in the beginning, you are a co-founder of an app which I downloaded long ago. Believe it or not. Yeah. So, my audience has heard this over and over and over, and they're tired of it, I'm sure. But I was 300 pounds at one point and lost down to 120. And and got rid of diabetes, had melanoma, and, I have a terrible autoimmune disease, and I'm trying to get control of that. There was a reason for it. So this is something, I'm not the only person that suffers these things, being overweight. Having underlying illnesses. And this is something that people face every day. This is my audience. These are the people that face this every day. The basis of my show most of the time is trying to get people to understand that diet and exercise, nutrition and exercise has a huge basis for our health and what we do. And so you touched on that at the end, and I think that's a great place to go. How does this help people, improve upon their habits of exercise? And I'm very interested in that study.
Absolutely. I would love to cover it because it's one of my favorite ones, and it just came out, so it's fresh. I love fresh research. I'm a nerd that way. But
okay, we're bringing something new to the table today. Good for it.
Oh, I've got some other new ones that are maybe even fresher. But let's start with this one because it's so good. Yes. What they were able to show in this study, it was actually a study looking at type 2 diabetes. There's a lot of research now with fasting mimicking for type 2 diabetes, and in fact, now there are programs to help people put diabetes into remission. I'm so grateful that you shared your story there, because people need to know you can reverse diabetes. You don't have to be on medications for diabetes anymore. It's not, a life sentence. You can put that into remission, and the fasting mimicking diet is a great way to get there with programs like L-Nutra Health that have since been released. So they were doing already this research with this population, and they were seeing incredible results, patients dropping their HbA1c and coming off of their medications. And in studies, they're tracking absolutely everything that's going on, even if it's not necessarily the thing that they care about measuring, which was in this case, their medications and their blood sugar levels. They were also measuring physical activity. They didn't tell anybody what to change or to, make sure you exercise on top of this diet. They were just focusing on nutrition. But what they saw when the study was over was a really surprising difference in the physical activity. And so there was one group that was just doing standard nutrition care, so basic, healthy diet every day.
Mhm.
And then the other group was doing the fasting mimicking diet only once a month, 5 days a month. And at the end, which was 6 months later, they checked in. And the group that did the fasting mimicking diet increased their physical activity by 4 hours a week. And the
Wow.
group that was doing standard nutrition decreased their physical activity by 6 hours a week.
Okay.
So this is a huge difference,
This is
right? And you kind of start wondering, how did this happen and why did that happen? And, I have a couple of ideas, but primarily being one, when you do the fasting mimicking diet,
Mhm.
you lose weight. And with the standard nutrition care alone, you probably lose weight too. But with the fasting mimicking diet, we see that muscle is retained. When we
Yes.
look at diets out there, it's really, really hard to find something that will give you weight loss, but not lose your muscle mass too.
Right.
And the
Yes.
fasting mimicking diet, time and time and time again, and all of the research that has been done has shown muscle protection. So not only are you feeling lighter, but you're also feeling just as strong, if not stronger. And
Better.
so that's certainly motivating to go do some exercise, even if it's a walk. Like if you feel stronger, you're up for it.
Absolutely.
Two, you've only committed 5 days to your intervention. So now you've got 25 days for the rest of the month to think about what else you can do to support your health.
Right.
And it's on top of that, you've just completed a 5-day program and you feel motivated, you feel proud, you feel excited of what you've accomplished. And so on top of all of that, you feel extra motivated. So all of those things are like a perfect storm for setting you up for doing other things. And so that's, again, an assumption. We know what the research shows, which is that there's increased activity, but we make assumptions on why that happens. And that's kind of where we've
Absolutely. A great point. So I will say that motivation is absolutely true. That what you say is true. I lost about 60 pounds before I felt good enough, to actually begin to do something, but I saw results. It was like a kickstart and I saw results. So I was more motivated to do it, but I felt so horrible and had been feeling horrible for 13 years, just horrible. And changing up, diet and whatnot was great and doing all that, but I had hormone treatment, natural hormone, therapy treatment, which also jumped in, changed up how I felt. I started at the gym, that was 8 years ago, and now I'm in athletic and just unusual shape, and was taken on by just that motivation. Exactly what you're discussing. I felt better. Therefore, I didn't use fasting mimicking diet. I didn't really know about it way back when, or I would have used this. But the second point I want to make too is that now that the compounding world has been slayed by the loss of the GLP-1 medications, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Mounjaro, the Zepbound, the semaglutide, Ozempic, Wegovy, all those. Now that there's a loss there, this is a solution.
And I would say it's been a solution even before then, right?
Well, yes,
but absolutely. And I mean, in the world of GLP-1s, and there's absolutely a place for them. Let me just start by saying that, because I think a lot of people are, relatively negative on them. And I understand that side too, right? Because there's negative side effects for sure. We were just talking about how important it is to protect muscle mass with those GLP-1s. We're seeing about 40% of that weight loss coming from your muscle, which is, you're going to have to then either take another medication or do some really significant muscle building activity. And when you're taking those medications, you sometimes feel more tired. So it can be really hard to convince yourself to get to the gym. So it's kind of, it's a difficult place to be. It has its place, but with the fasting mimicking diet, you don't have any of those negative side effects, and you have the muscle protection, and you see really significant results. And so it's kind of the best of everything kind of coming together. So, I mean, and some people are still taking them in tandem, and that might even be a great option too, right? Because you can take a little bit less of that GLP-1 with the fasting mimicking diet. Of course, talk to your doctor and make sure that that's the right fit, and make sure that that's right for you. But that can be a really good option and possibly limit some of those side effects.
Absolutely. So this is really, I think this is a big, big, point to make, that they are safe if used correctly in the right people, which is very often not. And, and the preservation of muscle mass is very, very important, especially while you're losing, just trying to maintain that and then grow it at some point. And so, great, great solution to it. So if somebody is going to do the fasting mimicking diet, really, I guess, explain it. And, people, I think, are still probably a little clouded about, well, what is it, or how would I begin to do it?
Yeah. So the fasting mimicking diet is relatively straightforward because companies like Prolon and L-Nutra Health have designed kits that allow you to know exactly what to have, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snack, to avoid triggering you out of a fast. There's nutrient sensing pathways, essentially alarm bells on our cells that are looking for specific foods and specific amounts of that food. So it is far more scientific and far more specific than just being low calorie. And I want to make that very clear, because some people think, oh, well, I'll just eat really, really little and I'll be in a fast.
Yes.
But that is not the case. You have to make sure you're eating the right thing in the right amounts. And that's why these preset kits are really kind of the best way to go. And in my opinion, the only way to go, because you really don't have to think. You get absolutely everything you need. And the way that it's designed is you get 5 little boxes within your big box. Each box is each day's meals. And within each box, you have your breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snack. You even have a little meal card if you really want to get hyper specific on exactly when to have everything. But it's really easy. What I do is I dump out my day's box. I look at the contents and I kind of decide when I'm going to have what. And you can choose when you have what. But most people will start their day with a nut-based breakfast bar. Okay. Super tasty. It has a little bit of honey and a lot of really great whole food nuts, etc. Everything is going to be plant-based in this program by design. We then usually transition to one of the snacks. You might see something like olives or kale crackers. They're true crackers with nuts and seeds, and they're actually kind of hearty, believe it or not. And then you transition to one of your soups. The soups are tons of different flavors, tons of different versions that you can choose from based off of your preferences. And then we go into usually another snack, another soup, and then you finish off even the day with a little chocolate crisp. So, people are always surprised to hear how much food you're actually getting. And not to mention that you don't have to prep anything. You don't have to cook anything. You don't really have to do anything. You can even have the new soups entirely cold if you want. So, I'm here for a nice gazpacho on a summer day. That way I can keep doing my fasting mimicking in the summer. Absolutely. So lots of fun ways to enjoy the 5-day and really, kind of just take a break from all of the meal planning and grocery shopping and doing all that. And then also give your body that deep cellular reset and, a deep cleanup, metabolic reset, all of the benefits that additionally come from the kit.
Wonderful. So this is a nice little stopping point. We're not done yet, but we will take a short little break and pay homage to my wonderful sponsor at Magna Pharmaceuticals, Dr. Warren. I always do that. Dr. Warren Lesser, who I've known for years, and there's no reason for me to mess up his name. He's such a beautiful human being. We'll stop for just a minute, but please tell people where they can find more information on, fasting mimicking. And you are an interesting young lady. I'm sorry, you're young to me again, but how people can find it. And so, and find out more information on you. You're a powerhouse. I love it.
Thank you so much. And I would love to hear from anybody who has interest in this. I'm always eager to answer questions on my Instagram. You can reach me directly and DM me there at Fitton Nutrition. So that's FITTON Nutrition on Instagram. That's the fastest way to reach me. If you're interested in fasting mimicking, if any of these programs and products seem like a good fit for you. If you're a generally healthy person, you're looking for prevention, you're looking for a little bit of weight loss, you're looking for some of this longevity benefit, go check out prolonlife.com. That's PROLON life.com. If you have type 2 diabetes, pre-diabetes, any medical concerns that you are looking to use fasting mimicking for, go check out L-Nutra health.com. That's L-Nutra health.com. And those will help you get started and on the right path.
Absolutely. And every single one of these will be on the website as the show airs. So you can go to drpbetterlife.com, my little website, and check it out. I've got all the links to iTunes, YouTube, and Spotify. Started a YouTube TV network. And so working really hard to bring some information to you. drpbetterlife.com. We'll take a short break and be right back.
Depression, anxiety, low energy, weakness, these are just some symptoms of low B12 levels. And the absorbable B12 folate supplement that's helping people declare victory over depression symptoms is Denovo Plus B12 by Magna Pharmaceuticals. Patients with symptoms of depression often exhibit low levels of folate and vitamin B12. The human body needs sufficient folate intake to produce the essential neurotransmitters serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine. These neurotransmitters alleviate feelings of sadness, anxiety, and gloom. What makes Denovo Plus B12 so successful? Denovo Plus B12 contains readily absorbable folate and B12. That means it's more successful at correcting the root cause of your deficiency, not just the symptoms. Whether you are suffering with low energy, depression, fatigue, or anxiety, you owe it to yourself to learn more at magnaweb.com. That's magnaweb.com. Please let us know at checkout that you heard about Denovo Plus B12 on The Better Life with Dr. Pinkston.
Welcome back. That's my little pharmacy. I love them. So, in talking about the fasting mimicking diet, longevity, feeling better, maintaining your muscle. I mean, oh my goodness, we have covered a lot of bases here. Let's turn around to hormones. And, we've got women and men. I'm sure there are, positive effects on both. But I know one of your niche areas is in peri and pre-menopause and menopause. So tell me a little bit about your research there.
Absolutely. So first, I think what's important to know when we're looking into, especially perimenopause, where these changes are starting to appear, we start to see a lot of changes in hormones that are just happening naturally. And that's primarily going to be that drop in estrogen, drop in progesterone. And that is then creating a cascade of other changes. And one of the big ones that we're seeing is increased insulin resistance, which is also putting a lot of women at higher risk of type 2 diabetes and prediabetes. Other things that we see is drop in muscle. We see higher loss of bone density. And we also see that all of this also usually comes to increase weight. And that's because all of these things kind of coming together are creating a perfect storm to prevent your metabolism from working at its best capacity. Your muscle is really helpful in supporting your metabolism. And when that starts decreasing, it's creating other difficulties for that as well. And so unfortunately, it's not necessarily surprising that we see all of these other changes that persist as increased weight gain, the feeling of less strength, of course, all of the symptoms associated with perimenopause and premenopause, like hot flashes and dry skin and all these other, kind of additional downsides that we're starting to see in parallel with all of this. So what we're seeing with fasting mimicking is the ability to, again, because we're letting our body do the work and we're working from that root cause approach, to tap into a lot of these different things. Of course, we kind of touched on the impact on insulin resistance, something that I'm sure you're familiar with. HOMA-IR is one of these things that we're taking a peek at, and there is a really big impact of the fasting mimicking diet there. So we're able to push back on there. We see the protection of muscle with the weight loss. And so anybody that is entering, I mean, honestly, anybody over really 35 should really be starting to think about this. Anybody over 30, really, because at 30, that's where we start seeing this decline in muscle. Make sure that any intervention that you do, because naturally during this time of life, we start thinking about all of the things to start pushing back, right? And so we can sometimes get a little ahead of ourselves and start making some rash decisions, choosing some very restrictive diets and things that actually just end up making things worse, because when we are losing weight, we might also be losing that muscle. So choosing something like the fasting mimicking diet has consistently been shown to protect that muscle, but also protect bone. We see that in the DEXA scans, or these really high-end body composition assessments that we do. And then, of course, that impact on the biological age kind of helps to shift our body to this younger age, again, counteracting all of these natural processes of aging that are just natural, but hopefully we can just kind of help shift that back. So really what we see is an impact at a lot of different hormonal levels. We don't really see, interestingly, a lot of impact necessarily on estrogen, but that's kind of a good thing, that we don't see it going drastically down, which I think a lot of people have this misnomer and belief that it might. And that's, I think, why you might hear some physicians say, no, don't fast. Women shouldn't fast, because they're concerned of these possible increases in cortisol and drop in estrogen. And what we've seen consistently with the fasting mimicking diet is that it is actually able to avoid these types of things, because we're limiting the impact on our stress. By giving nutrition, we're just doing it in a far more gentle way. And so also I like to reiterate that it's different than water, right? We are able to go at it a little bit more gently, a little bit softer. We're giving nutrition. We're allowing us to have breakfast in the morning. All of these things that kind of take off some of that stress that we would see in a regular water-only fast. That, yes, while it might give us some of those healthy aging benefits and some of those benefits to our health that we might want during this time of life, they may also cause us to have increased level of cortisol, which would actually be a downside. So we want to be very careful about how we do that. And that's why the fasting mimicking diet really does give you kind of the best of both worlds.
Amazing. You touched on every single thing that people are concerned about, from, cortisol to hormones, aging, osteoporosis. I mean, listen, and the one thing that I'll hone it in on is the fact that you mentioned you start aging, around 30 or so. I preach to my patients and to my audience ad nauseum that you start the loss of muscle in your late 20s up to 10% each decade. So when you get to 50 and you start the, menopausal process or whatever, you are at a significant disadvantage that's been working for 20, 30 years now. So it starts early. Perimenopause is not just a few years before actual menopause. It starts back in your 20s. Starts with testosterone too. That loss of testosterone starts then. And that's why many women, like you mentioned, in late 30s begin to feel it. You hit that wall, right? So in estrogen, and some people choose to do hormone replacements, some don't. It's fine. Make sure you're doing it natural. You can go back and watch my show on that one. You can hear all about it, but I'll spare everybody today. But what you don't understand is that there's not just one thing controlling your symptoms and your decline. There are many issues. And you touched on cortisol and the stressors, the dietary aspects, the rise in insulin, the insulin resistance, the hormonal deficits, all of those things crowded together. And so we must continue to, thwart people from thinking that food and exercise are the two things that are at the base of everything you do. And now you've got information on 30 to 40 years of research and extensive science, behind all of this. So no more excuses. Now, what does fast? So you mentioned, like water fasts. some people know about that, some people don't. So can you kind of compare, maybe why, well, I guess you've already touched on why fasting is important, but maybe could compare the two as to why this might be a better way to go. First of all, you're not starving, okay? They don't have to work on the food noise and the pantry calling you and all that. You can eat. But, fasting, water fast, et cetera. What does this, how do people do that, and why do they do that?
Yeah, well, water fasting still has incredible benefits, and all of the benefits that I shared with the fasting mimicking diet, I'll give you a couple caveats where that's not the case, but a vast majority of those benefits are still going to be seen with these prolonged water fasts. And I do very much put emphasis on the prolonged, because that short everyday intermittent fasting is not the same. You will get different benefits and not all of the benefits of long fasting. But for the individuals that are super gung-ho and are able to achieve a 3, 4, 5-day water only fast, all the power to you. I honestly, I've tried, because, this is my world. I didn't get very far. I think I made it just over 24 hours before I was like, absolutely not. I've got the fasting mimicking diet. I'm just going to go do that. This is way too hard. But there are absolutely benefits of water only fasting. So let me just start with that a lot of those benefits are there. The ones that we see that are less so present with water only fasting are going to be muscle protection. Wow. So with the fasting mimicking diet, because we're giving you nutrition that allows your body to focus on, getting a little bit of those nutrients from the food that you consume, as opposed to going to your muscle to start pulling some of that, the protein that it needs, or some of that energy that it needs, it's able to focus on eating the food. So that is one part of it, along with the fact that when we are in a fasted state, our body releases growth hormone, which is also protective to our muscle. So that combination of not just having the growth hormone, but also having some nutrients and nutrition is very muscle protective. So that is something that we see, especially in fasting mimicking, and why now a lot of people that maybe had kind of taken a step back from promoting fasting and water only fasting have since shifted to promoting fasting mimicking, because you get that added security. Not to mention, as I hinted at earlier, is the reduction of stress on the body, right? And that's a big part of this. Your body, when it is in a fast, it adds stress. It's actually part of the magic, and it's very important that your body does go through some stress, because that stress is what rings the alarm bells to say, hey guys, let's focus on cleanup. So we want some stress, but by giving a little bit of nutrition as part of our fast, we are also able to kind of rein back a little bit on that stress and create a safer environment for us to go through this fast. Yes. So that's on top of all of the other benefits, kind of a nice little fasting mimicking only benefit.
Beautiful. And I don't think you have as many feelings of blood sugar crashes and things like that. I think people with, again, you said it, ask your doctor. Please clarify this with your doctor. But people with diabetes can do it. They just need to watch very carefully. But you said there is a mechanism for fixing the underlying problems, and people can turn their diabetes around doing this. So please focus on the benefits and speak with your doctor. And hopefully their doctor knows about this.
Well, even if they don't, because unfortunately, a lot of the conventional physicians out there just aren't fully abreast of this solution yet. We are now, a company called L-Nutra Health that I kind of hinted at earlier has since released something called the Diabetes Remission and Regression Program. Nice. And so it is specifically designed to help individuals who are looking to support their type 2 diabetes, ideally reverse it entirely through nutrition alone, and start coming off of medications, feeling better, feeling freer through this 5-day-a-month protocol that is done for, depending on the person, it can be, anywhere from 4 to 12 months. On average, we see about 6 months. That's the average amount of time. And with that program, you also get a physician already. So if your doctor isn't already looped in, either share the information with them and get them on board. The L-Nutra Health team is always happy to educate and support physicians in learning more. And usually they're all about it. And if not, and if you don't feel comfortable telling your doctor about it, come to the L-Nutra Health team, and they will connect you with telehealth physicians that will absolutely know everything ins and outs of fasting mimicking and help guide you through the process.
Boom. That is fantastic. Okay. Great point to tie it up. Please let people know how they can reach that information and get this done.
You got it. Well, so the program that I just mentioned, that's the L-Nutra Health program. So you can go to L-Nutra, N-U-T-R-A, health.com. If you are a generally healthy person and you are looking to implement fasting mimicking for prevention, then go to prolonlife.com, Prolon life.com. And if you want to come hang out with me, chat with me, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'm on Instagram at Fitton Nutrition, Fitton Nutrition. Come say hello.
Absolutely. Renee Fitton. Wow. You've been a fantastic guest this morning. Thank you. Full of great information. This is a great show. I really appreciate you and have been honored to have you on. All of this information will be on my website at drpbetterlife.com. Please come visit and get your links and see other shows. I've got some people on for the last 3 years. It's been fantastic, a fantastic ride. But you are topping it today. Thank you so much. Any final words? Anything you want to leave with the audience today?
I think it would just be, even if you don't try fasting mimicking today, keep it in your mind, in the back of your mind. I'm a big believer in taking one small step at a time, and it doesn't have to be this. Take one thing that you believe is going to support your health, and I promise you that it will help propel you to make additional choices, whether that's with sleep health, adding community, friends, and family to your life, adding a physical activity. Any of those things can be a really great motivator and propeller to, support you in your longevity. And then when you're ready, come find the Fasting Mimicking Diet. I promise you, you will not regret it. It is a great way to incorporate some really quick but very impactful longevity nutrition into your life. And you only have to do it 15 days a year. That's it. I don't know if I even mentioned that. That's it. That's all that's recommended. A total of 15 days. So.
Wow, that's 15 days to live a couple of years longer. Not a bad thing. That was very well said. Thank you. Small steps, long way, a good way to get started. So thank you so much. And thank you everybody for watching. I appreciate it. We will see you again next week.